We have with us Bernard Garcia. He is the founder and CEO at ViaSoft Corporation. Please welcome him with a resounding round of applause.
Hello. Thank you for having me and presenting our topic for this moment, digital identity. I am Bernard Garcia, founder and CEO of ViaSoft. When we say about digital identity, instantly we are thinking about the AI or maybe robotics. But have we ever wondered how digital came to be? As it goes far back as 100,000 years ago in the evolution of digital, not digital, the individual identity. But this is not moving. The clicker doesn't work. Can we? All right, so thank you. So 100,000 years ago, jewelry is used for identifying individual or their identity to communicate information about their wealth, familial ties, or personal identity. The same goes with tattoos. And okay, that clicker is not working well. Or tattoos or body piercing in 2000 BC. And then it evolves into personal identification ID number during the 1829 in UK. And then it was evolved into introduction of social ID card in 1936, followed by digital records, first smart cards in 1980. And then, in year 2000, the Know Your Customer, or KYC Act, this was followed by biometric implementation of statewide palm print in 2004, and followed by 2010, the biggest biometric database implemented in India for their Aadhaar system. And as we progress, the identity access management in 2014, IAM is the biggest industry right now for authentication or digital identity. It is a framework for business processes to manage identity and technology with 4 functions, which is to identify identity federation, giving authentication and access without password, and then followed by service function. And this is, until now, we are benefiting on this as we saw like database as a service, software as a service. It gives authentication for those service functions. The pure identity is creation and deletion of identity, password, or access without permission or something for administration. And then user access. The user access, for example, smart card associated by customer to log the service and the services that they wanted to be connected. And then in the advancement of IAM, the industry looked towards more secure authentication. That's why we use biometric. In biometric, it is the tokenization or biometric tokenization combined with inheritance factor with PKI or public key infrastructure. But somehow it leads to invasion of privacy, capturing people's faces without consent. And that's why it led to a lawsuit in this facial recognition couple years ago. So there are challenges in this. In absence of security awareness in the cloud, we have challenges in cybersecurity that we can witness every day, especially hacking. In hacking, this is a teenage trick that became billion dollar growth rocket nowadays. It is dangerous because it also led to medical data breach, which affected 26 million people in 2020. Identity theft, statistics shows that about 1 out of 15 people become victim of identity fraud. And the most recent is the ransomware. This is alarming. Ransomware becomes a very huge threat to our economy. In this video, you can see what I'm talking about.
Last week, it was the world's largest beef supplier. A month ago, Colonial Pipeline, supplying roughly 45% of the East Coast fuel, paid a $4.4 million ransom to Russian hackers in Bitcoin after they accessed its system with a compromised password.
Our Justice Department has launched a new task force dedicated to prosecuting ransomware hackers to the full extent of the law.
Ransomware attacks have become routine, hitting everything from groceries to gas, hospitals to transportation to local government.
The largest public transit authority in the United States has fallen victim to a cyber attack.
Headaches for the steamship authority continue today following a ransomware attack.
UF Health is the target of a ransomware attack.
The FBI confirms to NBC News it is investigating 100 different types of ransomware, each responsible for multiple attacks in the U.S. It's a challenge Director Christopher Wray compares to 9/11.
We're one step away from cities being plunged into darkness, and that is not fear and uncertainty. That's based on facts.
You could take down our electric grid, our transportation, our financial systems. You could virtually paralyze the country.
The Justice Department signaled in a memo on Thursday it plans to treat ransomware cases with the same priority as terrorism cases, centralizing internal tracking of investigations and prosecution.
What we know is that companies of all sizes, large and small, are vulnerable to cyber attacks. So every company needs to be thinking about what it should be doing to be more resilient and to be doing the basics.
Like hiring an experienced cyber team, keeping security software updated using multi-step authentication, and teaching cyber vigilance to employees.
Cyber experts say the more that companies pay the ransom, the more that encourages cyber criminals to continue hacking. Peter?
And Tom, the president meets with Vladimir Putin in just 2 weeks. The White House says that cybercrime will be on the agenda.
Yeah, it's a top priority for Homeland Security and corporate America, but not much hope that the Russians will go along.
So ransomware, as mentioned, can virtually paralyze the country. So this is this is the magnitude of the threat in cybersecurity when it comes to flawed authentication. But this happens because of this. What are the causes of this problem? First, what do you call this? The password. This is the weakest link that we are using right now. In advent of AI and machine learning, years to come, password will not be effective anymore. It will lead to compromising data privacy or your personal information. How many among you have more than 7 passwords? See that? So that unfortunately, that is the flaws of authentication nowadays in cybersecurity. It is followed by this. I mean, some are using RSA key fob. Who among you used this RSA key fob before in system administration? That is like a dual factor authentication, right? It's like there is a code that you have to add in your password in order for you to be authenticated. And then the, what do you call this, magnetic card that you always use. in someone like, if you're punching in your payroll or time and attendance, you can just borrow somebody's card and swipe it for you, right? And then the industry, through the advancement of identity access management, thought about biometric. Because biometric it answers the question of the three factors of identity access management, which is something that you have, or something that you know, which is the password, and something that you have, the key fobs, and something that proves who you are. However, the biometric have current issues, like, for example, the fingerprint. I will show you later how people hack fingerprint. The image of hand scan, that was the one in our timeline. It was implemented in 2004 by the government using palm print. Take note, palm print. So the issues of this biometric that touches the surface, especially for fingerprint, if you touch the surface of your cell phone and you touch your finger right there, it will leave the traces that can be filled up. I'll show you later on. Voice recognition. I have identical twin daughters. They can hack the Siri. They can hack facial recognition because of duplication of identity, facial pattern. So this is the example of how they hack the fingerprint using, glue. So they put some portion of glue and then copied the finger ridges of the fingerprint, and then put in front of the reader. Look what will happen. See, that unlocks the phone. This is just one of those. They can use adhesive tape, they can use gummy bear, and whatever materials that FBI use to create a fingerprint. So that is one flaw of one of the modalities of biometric. Next is facial recognition. It proves that the facial pattern of individual have the susceptibility of duplication. In my use case, my twin daughters, they can hack the iPhone 10, like what they're doing. These are triplet boys. The identical twins can hack or can hack this facial recognition through locking and unlocking with different face. Can you imagine? So that's the flaw of authentication. So this is what we need in this digital revolution using our digital ID. The advancement of technology should help us, or tool and application. But we cannot avoid to have strong authentication because we are facing a different situation in our digital economy using the internet, for example, for cybersecurity. But on top of this, 2020, we know everything. Pandemic changed everything, the paradigm, the economy, and also it accelerated the needs for reliable digital ID with ID proofing. The strongest proofing that we have right now is the passport and driver's license. A few months ago, I attended the conference with Identity Forum. MasterCard is looking for something to unify the authentication without compromising the identity, or especially in COVID time, they need a digital ID proofing for utmost hygienic concern. So there's a need for hygienic on top of our strong authentication requirements to be safe so that our identity will not be compromised. Imagine touching the readers of different biometric modality promotes virus exposure and disease contamination. You can imagine those companies who are using the palm print, they always have sanitary lotion beside it just to avoid the exposure or transfer of germs. So we understand that digital ID with strong authentication and sanitary precaution is important. Even in this pandemic, government agencies and private institution panicked, and they want to have a certain action to avoid, have a cure in this COVID, especially for digital ID. From World Bank, they said that every person should have a digital ID which would not compromise the privacy or that ensure the privacy of individual. So secure and hygienic authentication, this is the solution. In BioSoft created Very Hand. We invented this tool that will read the whole hand, the entire hand, reading the vein patterns of the whole hand in a contactless method. A few years ago, when I was in NIST, National Institute of Science and Technology, in a cybersecurity forum, one of the speakers, the PhD, approached me and he said, if you continue, you have a great product and technology. If you continue to develop this, you will create a great identification next to DNA. That's how effective the vein technology or vein recognition pattern technology that we adopted in creating a Very Hand. We capture thousands of data points that is infallible, cannot be hacked. The only person who can, we generate a pure digital ID out of the hand, and the only person who can decrypt that ID is the person who is enrolled. So the password is you, and you are the key. This is the solution that we understand. Imagine that if you can connect all this application in your hand, you can use it in your bank, in your school. This is the answer to your technology for unification. You can unify all the authentication solution, but on top of that, you need to have a strong authentication. And we have discussed earlier, some other modalities have flaws. And on top of this, we have to have a secure, hygienic solution. So this is what we developed. This is the solution to what we need in this revolution for digital identity. Imagine you are transacting using your hand. But one thing that you should not forget every time you make a transaction, which is what? You should not forget to bring your hand, right? Multi-factor authentication is password, relying on password, and depending on the device. For example, this is your mobile device plus your password. The password, and then you have the OTP code. That's the multi-factor from the device. You can forget your password. You cannot forget your hand. You can lose that cell phone, or you can lose the device. You cannot lose your hand. This is, go back. This is the solution that we are, take pride presenting this to you tonight for effective digital identity protection in this digital revolutionary. Can we play this, please?
The pandemic has forced us to reimagine how we interact with the world around us.
Things that once seemed normal are getting an overhaul from design up.
Nowhere is this more prevalent than in security.
Hackers have been emboldened by the world moving online, so now is the time to be more diligent with our security than ever.
Verihand by BioSoft is the most hygienic, contactless method of secure digital ID available in the marketplace today.
Some biometrics are fundamentally flawed, being duplicated. Fingerprint can be peeled off. The facial recognition can duplicate by identical twins. So that's the problem. The problem is the authentication is flawed, and the industry is looking for a solution for identity proofing. In BioSoft is a secure identity provider with our contactless reader using the entire hand. Unlike fingerprint and facial recognition that can be duplicated and hacked, by reading the whole hand and reading the complex pattern and data points makes it unique and the strongest authentication in the market. We need the most secure and hygienic method that will not compromise the identity of people because of face shields, face masks, so we can avoid that by using the hand. Our blockchain makes our pure digital ID immutable. It cannot be changed. Once it's in the network, it cannot be changed. The only people that can read that ID is your hand. The password is you. You are the people. And Biosoft wants to set a global standard for a more secure and healthier environment.
By using the entire hand and not just the fingerprint, Very Hand can authenticate with unparalleled accuracy.
Current biometric processes have paved the way for a more secure future. But it's not enough. Research shows that facial, voice, and fingerprint recognition are fundamentally flawed and can be easily stolen or reproduced. Introducing VeriHand by Biosoft, the world's first multimodal contactless hand biometric. Unlike current biometric methods that only read the veins in the palms or fingers, VeriHand works by reading the complex vein structure of the entire hand, capturing exponentially more data points. Using its proprietary algorithm, VeriHand generates a unique encrypted code from the complex patterns of the hand, creating a digital ID that is virtually impossible to falsify. Combined with the contactless reader, VeriHand is not only the most secure, but also the most hygienic biometric that can be utilized with any desired application. Imagine a world where you can have the most secure, hygienic, and affordable security right in your very hand. This is the future. The future is now.
In this digital revolutionary of mankind, digital identity is the most important right now. And we have to make sure that we cannot compromise our identity and also the data privacy. This is the solution. This is the contactless and hygienic, most secure and hygienic solution by Biosoft. They said in ransomware, they said we have to go back to basic. But we believe that biometric authentication should not be partial. It should be complete. It should not be partial. That's why we invented or we discovered this in the entire hand. Imagine going back to password. The short password is easy to decrypt. That's why the best practice right now, how many digits? 12 digits, right? Combination of numbers and characters. That makes strong password. However, the password can be guessed by AI and machine learning, especially in the future. The whole hand, our technology, patented technology, is multimodal. We are not just relying in one modality, or not only palm or finger. This is the entire hand. And they said, go back to basic. What we are saying is we should go beyond the basic because of the cybersecurity issues, the blockchain. Our blockchain ID is for identification. This is the authentication gateway that will connect your hand to anything. So security should have strong authentication. And this is the revolutionary biometric solution that we offer. Thank you. And if you have some question, you can visit our booth. And if you are interested, you can ask Bill and Joe. We are all here to answer your question. Thank you so much.
Feel free to step up to the mic if you have any questions.
Okay. I have several questions, so
okay, go ahead.
Follow up after this. But does it require a sensor to use it, or is it available via the camera on a phone, for instance?
We have our own reader.
Okay.
Yeah, that's VeriHand is the reader. That's the hardware component of our biometric. So our biometric solution is end-to-end encryption. From our reader, your pure digital ID is encrypted and hashed to our gateway in the blockchain of digital ID. So yeah, everyone requires to have, they need to have a sensor. But if you're, let's say, for example, you're working with an entity or a student of a university using Verihand, then your ID is captured or your ID has been created. Now, our technology map gearing toward B2C. In B2C, we have the miniaturized version of this to be placed in front of the cell phone. So, and your question is if this works in camera. No. It is a specialized patented solution that is just reading the vein pattern and other modalities in the hand. As I said, thousands of data points that make it stronger. So once we put that OEM to mobile devices, tablet, cell phone, or IoT devices, you just have to put your hand in a certain distance. You don't have to touch it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. I have one question. What happens with aging? Does it get affected by aging? And the other question was, for example, with the pandemic, every Face ID device got affected by the use of the mask. Do you think something in the future can affect the recognition of the hand?
Thank you, good question. 2 points, right? One is if aging affects the hand. The good news is our vein pattern, left and right, they are totally different. And it doesn't change from 6 years old to 100 years old based on the research, okay? So we're riding on that research, okay? So it's there, that the vein pattern doesn't change. The best part of our solution is whether your hand is oily, with dirt, callus, it doesn't matter. But try it in fingerprint, it will not work. Try it in palm print, it will not work, okay? So another question is if that affects in coming times, right? In the advent of AI, in machine learning, they said that, well, let me tell you this. A few years ago, when we are introducing this to Wall Street in New York City, they're saying that our authentication is good, but contactless, they don't pay attention that much. But COVID time, we need a contactless solution. All right. Through the AI, by the COVID, the facial recognition slowed down because of this face shield and face mask. And they said they will discover an AI that will penetrate the face mask. And guess what? Even they penetrated the facial and face mask, still, they are using the facial pattern, which is susceptible for duplication. And throughout the year, as the age go by and then the technology advances, right now we have the blockchain and soon we will have the quantum technology, it will not change. And the good thing of that is the more population that we are using, we test in our solution, it gets smarter and faster. So as we progress in the technology, our Verihand will be more smart and faster and faster solution. So that's why we are so confident in our technology that this is the revolutionary authentication that, based on my topic, revolutionary digital of mankind. For us, this is the solution. This is the new generation for authentication. Question? Yes, sure.
Great presentation, thank you.
Thank you.
The question is, can this technology be adopted for using things other than your hand, maybe your body, as you walk by, things can recognize, not just using facial patterns and recognition, but the underlying vein flow or whatever technologies you are using here today?
Yeah, I've started this research in this venture because my background is more on system administration and password and stuff like that. And then I saw this technology, which is very effective in vein pattern. And biometric is part of our body to authenticate who you are. For me, the behavioral biometric, I'm not sure how far they can go for this. Even we have an AI. As a matter of fact, in Europe, they thought about putting chips in your wrist. That's how invasive, and that shows the need for a strong authentication. But our solution is simple, yet very extensive and very secure. You don't have to put chips on your hand. It's not invasive. It's just put your hand over our reader, and you'll be good. I mean, you can transact your business transaction online, and many. If you require authentication, this is the best solution. I think you have a question.
Yeah. Great presentation. My name is Castro, representing Next Reality. My question to you is, what would happen in the case of your hand if you have an injury? If you have an injury, or, because the hands are very, you use them for a lot of things, and, you tend to get injured on your hand. Will it solve that issue as well?
Yes. As I mentioned earlier, your vein pattern of your left or right hand are different, right? So if you enroll your right hand, you cannot authenticate in the left. If something happened in your right hand, you can enroll your left. It's still the same person, right? I have received those questions, several questions before, like the amputees, with disabilities. Those are 1 in a million case. So if they don't have this, both hands, so this solution is not really for them, but definitely there is a special solution for those kind of situation. But yes, even your hand has abrasive in front, callus. If you play golf like me, you have callus. It doesn't matter. But if it's the hand is deformed, then you have the left, right? So as I said, if not, our solution is our variant solution, our biometric solution is complementary and supplemental to any biometric modality right now. So if you are currently using fingerprint and you want to validate it, you can use our technology to validate if it is the right person. So through your hand, contactless. Any question? I guess we're okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bernard.